We are back for another Talk About It Tuesday, and we have a question about intergenerational wealth. I love these types of questions. I have a 19-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old son. My life is not promised tomorrow, but what's a good amount to aim for when leaving money behind for your family? It's a great question, and I think when we say leave money behind, we have to really be specific as to what we're leaving money behind for, right? And so, are we talking about creating intergenerational wealth? Are we talking about a legacy? Or are we talking about um, I died prematurely and my kids are 16 and 19 and they need certain amounts of money to survive? So, let's just kind of break that up a little bit. Let's just talk about 16-year-old, 19-year-old. For that, you should have life insurance. And so, how do you decide how much life insurance is required? Okay, 16-year-old still has to go to college, and 19-year-old still has to go to college. 16-year-old and 19-year-old still have a few years left of just day-to-day things that need to be taken care of, and somebody who will become their provider should have enough money, just like someone who would pay child support, right? To be able to take care of them and allow them to at least maintain the lifestyle that they're accustomed to. So you should really look at how much you spend on them currently, and then with the number of years left that they're, would be under someone's care, maybe 22, 23 years old, multiply that. Also add in if they intend to go to college, what the college tuition would be, and then really get an idea like that. So that's how much insurance you probably need. When you're talking about intergenerational wealth, I don't think you should leave money to children. I don't think you should leave money, cash, to anyone. What normally happens is when you leave cash, you don't get multiple generational wealth. You get one generation gets the money and they spend it. And so we have to think beyond, if we're talking about intergenerational wealth or legacy, we have to think beyond the next generation, your children's children, and your children's children's children. How do we allow the wealth to continue, not only to pass along, but to grow exponentially? And cash, unfortunately, even if they passed it along, would not grow exponentially. As a matter of fact, it would depreciate in value and become worth less and less and less just because of inflation. And so I think the best thing to shoot for, again, after you have insurance is a must. If you're going to leave cash, I think you should do it in a trust. So a trust designates when they get it, because again, giving a lump sum of cash to a kid is disastrous. And you can even do life insurance through a trust, but it designates when they get it and under what conditions. And so it could say that they are not abusing drugs or something by the age of whatever, 24, 25, and they can get it in parcels. Then they get X amount of dollars, and then they don't get enough anymore until X amount of time or under other conditions. And so if you're going to do cash, I think it's best to do it after the life insurance in a trust. So it says when they get it and under what conditions they get it. Other than that, I think you should shoot for assets. And why do I say assets? There are multiple types of assets, right? So there are assets that preserve wealth, meaning if you put money into it, it grows in what we call equity and appreciation, appreciates in value, and therefore it offsets inflation. And so the way to pull money from that asset, and you leave instructions for everything, by the way, the way to pull money from that asset would be to borrow against it, or if need be, to sell it. And then you have assets that produce income, like real estate, like dividends on stocks, like interest on certain other securities. And so I think the goal is to to gain assets, pass assets along that will appreciate over time and be able to give them income so they can live off the income from it, or get some income from it and pass it on to the next generation and keep passing it on to the next generation. But everything comes with instructions, and that's something that's really important. Sometimes we don't like to have these conversations, but my wife and I, periodically, we sit down with our children and we let them know, okay, these are the assets that we have. If we both pass away, this is how you have to maintain that asset. This is how you have to insure that asset. These are the expenses that come along with that asset. These things need to be paid. These things need to be taken care of, or you will lose the asset. These are the different things you can do with the asset, collectively as a group, because I have 3 children. And so as they age and as you age, those instructions change, right? And so when they were younger and college needed to be paid for, then there was one set of instructions. When we still had a mortgage on our properties, there was another set of instructions. And so over time, you have to have these meetings again and let them know what the assets are. Every asset should be documented somewhere. How to access that should be documented somewhere. Again, how to maintain it and the expenses associated should be documented somewhere. And you need to, again, let them know the best usage for each asset. So, great question. But intergenerational wealth, I think we stay away from the cash. Only enough cash required to do what they need to do at a certain age. But everything else is assets. And so the number is going to vary from person to person. So I can't tell you specifically what the number is for your children, but you have to figure that out. That's something you can definitely figure out, because you can figure out how much you spend on them now, and again, to maintain that lifestyle and looking ahead at life events. So if you want to leave money for their wedding, then there's another amount. If you want to leave money for their college, there's another amount. If you want to leave money for a down payment on a house, there's another amount. So that, is all depending on what you want to be able to provide for and what you can provide for them, right? So, great question. Keep the questions coming, and please leave some comments. And some of you might want to add some stuff to the commentary at the end. Keep the questions coming, and I'll see you next Tuesday.